Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. My name is Ben. As always, I'm super excited and happy to invite Peter, known in the Star Wars community as Petr Harmy, responsible for the very great Star Wars Despecialized Edition. You guys can Google it very quickly and figure out what it's all about. He has basically restored our original Star Wars back to their initial state. He is also a professional special effects artist, and he's a big, huge Star Wars collector. Peter, it's really awesome to have you back here. How are you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Hello, great to be here. Happy to see you again.
Likewise, man. What's going on in your life? What are you working on right now?
We've got some interesting projects at work, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but yeah, some pretty big movies we're working on right now. Yeah, and I'm still working on my Star Wars project. It's just been crazy,
Yeah.
all the stuff going on in my life, so I haven't really had time, as much time for it as I would like, but I'm still trying to get it done.
Now, my
'Cause,
understanding is you were, because previous earlier works on the Star Wars Despecialized were in full 1080p, but now that we have the 4K resolution versions available on Disney Plus channel, are you trying to also kind of integrate that in material
yeah,
into your...
that's right. Actually, my old version were 720p only,
Oh.
because a lot of my sources then were standard definition. So I wanted to sort of meet it halfway. So I took the 1080p Blu-rays and put them down to 720 and upscaled all the rest to 720. So it was sort of a nice medium. But now we not only do we have the 4K Blu-rays, but also like 4K fan restorations of 35 millimeter prints.
Right.
So basically all my sources are now 4K.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's amazing how far the fan community has come in terms of like the quality we were able to get.
And if you guys are more curious about the project and you want to see Peter's progress, or you want you stream it when you're able to, we'll throw all the proper links here in the video description below. So switch over to his channel, where we will also post to this podcast so both fans can enjoy it, but also you get to see other videos and the whole process, what goes into it, how you really sit down and you concentrate and you try to restore it literally frame by frame. Guys, it's quite fascinating. It's quite awesome. So today, our bigger discussion is going to be on the Star Wars Andor show. And of course, quick spoiler alert. Guys, for those of you who have not checked out the show, we're going to be talking about character story. So there might be some major spoilers for you guys. So please, if you haven't seen the show, be warned. Turn away now. Or if you don't care, continue watching the show. Before we get started on it, I just wanted to kind of start casually and build up to it. Just a couple of questions. Like, are you watching any recent current shows or movies that you really enjoyed? I mean, we have Willow, we just released on Disney Plus. We have House of Dragon, which is a prequel, obviously, to the Game of Thrones. Stranger Things 4th season came out earlier this year. What's in your queue right now? What are you watching?
Well, I have watched House of the Dragon, which I thought was amazing. I haven't actually watched the new season of Stranger Things yet. I don't know why. I mean, I really want to, because I heard it's really good, but I haven't got around to it.
Yeah.
I have watched and heartily disliked the Rings of Power show.
Okay.
But yeah, I loved House of the Dragon.
Yeah, that one is amongst the fans. Obviously, is getting compared to Game of Thrones. I watched one of the Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking to his interviewee, and he was saying that, look, up until a certain point, it was a great show to me. Very minor spoiler alert, guys. Somewhere in the middle of House of Dragons, there's a time gap. I think they lapsed like 10 years into the future, and some of the key actors are being swapped for different ones. So for a couple of people, including Joe Rogan, it just felt jarring. Like, he didn't have problem with the writing or stuff like that, but he just felt it was too different for him. But I'm really happy that you enjoyed House of Dragon. It's probably one of my second favorite shows this year. Stranger Things season 4 being number 1.
Yep.
Guys, I do apologize for a little bit of noise in the background. I live in Northern Manhattan, New York City. Crazy things like that do happen. But yeah, it's like it's so many great shows out there. But aside from feature films and TV shows, there's also a great documentary which came out in D+, which is obviously Light and Magic. I know you must have checked out some of it.
Yeah, yep. I've seen it all, but yeah, what's kind of interesting is that they are actually using footage from the original versions of Star Wars there. But we checked, and it seems like they are 35 millimeter scans pretty much on par with the fan efforts. But we checked and they don't match any of the actual like fan releases. So I guess they probably did their own scans for this, but they must have done them like specifically for the show because they were unrestored, or maybe restored but not like to the level of like a proper restoration.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting that this kind of thing goes full circle where they weren't using that stuff for Star Wars, but for example, for Jurassic Park, there's a fan release that's like a 35 millimeter scan of Jurassic Park, and they are definitely using that in the documentary.
That's weird, man. That's really fascinating how the exchange between the artists in the fandom and the actual release, the corporation goes on, which obviously begs the infinite timeless question whether those original cuts of Star Wars exist or not. I just recently had this little Twitter discussion, and I'm saying, have the problems with Star Wars in general have begun with George tinkering too much with his original works. Obviously, this generation of fans who are thankful for having the special editions, that's their first introduction into Star Wars. And in any discussion, you come to a conclusion that there is room for everything. There's people who can appreciate the past, people who enjoy the future. But I think you and I both align that, if you're going to introduce something new, give us the chance, the ability to appreciate its original format. Release it so all the fans could enjoy it. Peter, like slowly building up to Star Wars now, to Andor, we got also quite a range of different takes on the Star Wars formula as far as Disney is concerned. We had the very experimental Visions, an animated show, which each episode is like basically an anthology of self-contained stories there. Then we had the Tales of the Jedi, bring back some of my personal favorite clone era characters like Count Dooku, obviously portrayed by the one and only original Christopher Lee. Now you see him in animated form, Ahsoka. And of course, we're anticipating the Bad Batch Season 2, which I'm a huge fan of. We're going to get Season 2 coming early next year. Would you compare storytelling between live action and animation for me? Like, how do they stack up next to each other for you?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really watched a lot of the Star Wars animated shows. I've seen some of Clone Wars and Rebels, but I haven't actually finished watching Clone Wars, and that keeps me from like watching some of the newer shows because I feel like I should finish Clone Wars first.
Yeah.
And I just can't find the time because there's so many episodes. So yeah, I can't really compare the current animation because I haven't seen any of it. What I can say is that I wasn't a big fan of like the latest live action shows.
Right.
Meaning Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan.
Oh, we're gonna get to them for sure.
So I was kind of ready to give up on the Disney Star Wars, and Andor, man, it definitely gave me hope that there's more out there that we can enjoy in the future.
I think we all, as very passionate Star Wars fans, or movie fans in general, we're so passionate about things that we love that we seem to fall into one or the other extremes. Either we love it or we hate it, because we honestly, we love it at the end of the day, and we want it to be good. And I sort of learned to kind of like a meditative state to temper my expectations with all future releases, and to say, you know what, let's appreciate things as they come along and not buy into the hype. Because you would have your favorite filmmakers sometimes have missteps and some of the movies that release, they just don't happen. You know, people generally, artists, they put their heart and soul into these projects, and I genuinely believe even at Disney, they just want to please us and give us the best product they can. Sometimes a pandemic comes along, sometimes you don't have the right filmmakers or don't write the decisions, the script undergoes through many changes, and you don't end up with the product that you enjoy. So sometimes it's okay, but I always like to find that light at the end of the tunnel. So obviously Andor is our talk today. You know, it's the latest rage in Star Wars community. It's called by many outlets, like many publications like IGN, the best Star Wars show ever made. A lot of them even claim it's the best that Star Wars has ever looked and felt ever, including the original trilogy. Obviously, it's directed by Tony Gilroy. He is responsible for co-writing the Rogue One movie. He's also responsible for the Bourne trilogy of films with Matt Damon. He directed Devil's Advocate, and obviously his credits go on and on and on. Very popular, prominent filmmaker. On the Rotten Tomatoes, I mentioned it in my previous podcast, which I will release soon, which I also talked about Andor with my good friend Michael from Genuine Chit Chat. He's another great podcaster. And I mentioned that Rotten Tomatoes gave Andor an overall 96% from critics, and fans rated at 85. Obviously, just a glimpse of what the fandom feels about the show. You and I are going to have a deeper breakdown here. But first question I have for you, Peter, is what was your overall expectation from Andor?
Well, very low, actually. And that, I guess, is part of why I enjoyed it so much. And this is always like high expectations are a killer for enjoyment, because usually when you have, like, I had pretty high expectations for Obi-Wan, and I think that's what partially killed my enjoyment of it, because I was just disappointed. I think it wasn't a particularly bad show, but it just didn't live up to my expectations. Whereas Andor, I had very low expectations, or rather, like, I didn't expect it to be terrible. I just didn't expect anything from it, really.
Right.
I wasn't a huge fan of the character from Rogue One, and honestly, I think still the Andor character himself is like the weakest point of the show.
Cassian Andor,
but I sort of lost my track there. So I enjoyed it very much because I wasn't expecting much, and actually, like, the last trailer before it was released already sort of piqued my interest. So going into the show, my expectations were slightly higher than before the trailer, but still I didn't expect anything this good. For sure.
Trailers, especially when they're excellently produced, they definitely sell the tickets. They you know, invite you to watch the movie. I mean, when the trailer for The Last Jedi came out, it just blew my freaking mind. Both trailers, whoever produced them, and it was a rare occasion for me when I actually went into theaters. I enjoyed the movie just as much as the trailer. But I also, like yourself, I wasn't excited about Andor because I had a very interesting relationship with Rogue One. When it was announced and I saw the trailer, it was so visceral and interesting and dark and gritty that once again I built up my expectation too high, and I ended up actually loving the film, but not for the reasons I thought I would, because it's a really interesting picture on the paper. Like, it's intellectual, the story makes sense, what it's all about, how, you know, it's quite bold in what's the kind of story it wants to tell. It everybody dies at the end, but the execution just felt like I wasn't invested into any characters. It felt soulless. Like, the action was exhilarating and amazing, and Darth Vader sequence was just great hype for as a movie buff to enjoy. But overall, and when the trailer was shown for the Andor, I said, well, Ben, you kind of fell into the same pit again. Hold on a second. Let's hope for the best. Let's see what the show has to offer us. If it's going to end up being just another Rogue One, at least I'm going to enjoy the action. You know, I'll take something from it and forget about it the next day. No big deal. And whoa, I'm seeing it. We're going to get deeper into it, like what exactly we thought about it. But in general...
I'll say something about Rogue One. I
Yeah.
actually, that was like, I had the exact same criticism. On my YouTube channel somewhere. There's I think a review of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, my main problem with it was that you didn't really care for any of the characters. Like
Yeah.
the only character I cared about when they died was the droid
Many
K2SO.
people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but and exactly like you say, that's what I kind of expected from Andor, was more of the same.
Yeah.
But yep.
But it took a complete turnaround.
Hmm.
But generally, when as a fan, you're sitting down to watch your next show, maybe, with your best half, with your family, with friends. What's the first thing you're looking for in a show's pilot? What's the first thing that needs to grab your attention?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. For me, it's definitely the characters. Like,
Hmm.
if I don't find the characters interesting, it's just not gonna like. I'm not a big action fan. Like, I like action as a
Hmm.
spice in the movie, but it shouldn't. I don't like it as the main focus. Like, for example, like the Two Towers is my least favorite Lord of the Rings movie,
Hmm.
because it has, for my taste, it has a little bit too much action.
Hmm.
Like there's not as much story as there is action. So like, and I actually enjoy the extended version a lot more, because they added a lot of like
Right. They
character
expand on the
scenes.
world. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
love those too, man. Um,
So like for the other two films, I can leave or take the extended editions, but for Two Towers, definitely
mhm.
I prefer the extended version. And I guess that's, yeah, like the character and story for me is what's most interesting rather than action.
Yeah. The first thing I look for is I wanted to say characters like yourself, and it's obvious I'm also the sort of viewer like you are. I invest more into the emotional part of any
Mm,
story rather than the visual stuff. Not to say that I don't like action. I love action. I love when it's
yep,
thrilling, exhilarating, and it's actually the reason I was able to enjoy Andor. I mean, when
yep,
you see that space battle above the skies of Scarif, I mean, that was mind blowing. That was as
yeah,
good as the
true,
original Star Wars movie. Like, I
true,
can't
yeah,
believe it, man. Especially the way that they spliced the Rogue
mm,
Red Squadron footage in
yeah,
there so
yeah, yeah.
seamless. I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing. Um, but I personally look for not the characters specifically in a pilot of a show. I'm
Hmm.
looking for the main hook. I want to
Mm,
be able to ask myself a question whether I want to or not continue watching the show
hmm.
when the credits roll. Like, it was there something, a big oomph at the end that I felt like, oh, I need to see what happens next. Where's this character going? Is this guy
Mm,
gonna die? Are they gonna get the item they're looking for? I need that. If it
mm.
pushes me in that direction where I feel invested, because I generally don't rewatch anything out of TV shows, so it has to be interesting
Right.
to keep on watching. Um, so there you are, Peter. You're putting on Andor. You're watching the first episode. What's the first thing that stands out from any previous Star Wars project as far as Disney is concerned?
Oh, for sure, the atmosphere of, like, in the first episode, it was sort of Blade Runner-esque,
Yeah.
which I thought was, it really fit the Star Wars universe in a way. Like and uh, sorry, I'm going I'm probably gonna keep going on tangents here,
Go
but
for it, man.
yeah, because I remember when you were talking about some people actually saying it's better than the original
Yeah.
trilogy and stuff. I think it's like not comparable, because and I totally understand some people saying like this is good, but it's not Star Wars.
Hmm.
But for me, that's what is Star Wars? It's in the universe, and definitely the original trilogy is a totally different kind of show or movie.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's what makes this interesting to me. It's like a different look at the same universe. Whereas all the other shows were trying like super hard to be like the original trilogy, and kind of failing in a way, and also like you could really feel the desperation to be like the original Star Wars,
Especially Kenobi. Yeah.
like me, I look stormtroopers,
Yeah.
whereas I didn't feel this at all here. This really felt like giving some depth to the universe.
Hmm.
uh, and I loved the all like one of the biggest criticisms of the prequels is like all the politics in it, but I here the politics were effing awesome
Yeah.
because they were like intrigued. Like it felt kind of like Game of Thrones in space.
Hmm.
So I really liked it in that regard.
Yeah. For me, the biggest standout from previous shows was that for the first time, I saw something that is not driven by nostalgia or catering to fans or trying to be like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And in that way, like when you ask a question, what is Star Wars? Because it constantly evolves, it constantly tries to innovate. George Lucas did it with prequels.
Yep.
He spiced up
Yep.
the formula for better or for worse. The prequel
Mm.
trilogy stands artistically very different from the original
Yep.
trilogy. And now the Disney creators are trying to push in a new direction. And obviously, you can't compare it to original Star Wars, where today, by today's standards, the script writing may be a little bit on the nose or cheesy.
Mm.
Obviously, it has been modernized. Obviously, there's
Yep.
more bells and whistles and instruments they have at their hand to stylistically present prose in a way that feels more convincing. And I definitely feel that Andor has it. But then again, the comparison to original Star Wars is meaningless because it's a product of its time. And it stands the test of time. People keep coming back to the original trilogy and enjoying it. But what stood out was that here's a show that is first and foremost, its driving force is to tell a good story. It's not trying to be Star Wars. Obviously, it is Star Wars because it's set in that universe. It's carving out those corners and chunks of Coruscant, for example, that we haven't seen before. But I believed it because the Tony Gilroy job, the whole integrity of the project is based on I want to tell a story. I don't want to wiggle little Darth Vader here in front of your face or Obi-Wan Kenobi show up there so you feel excited. I'm going to tell you a story. And it's it's up to the audience to love it or hate it. And I totally understand a whole group of fans who say, you know what, I just found it boring. It's not for me. If I want to see Star Wars, I want to go see and ships exploding and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a fine criticism. That's what you enjoy, go for it.
Yeah.
But that's where it stood out.
Actually, I saw someone like complaining that like they mentioned the Emperor in some of the the Empire what's the like Secret Service scenes.
Yeah.
And why don't they show the Emperor? We want to see the Emperor. I was like, what? That was so great that they like just kind of name dropped the Emperor.
Yeah.
And it's because like we don't need to see him. We've seen him 100 times, but it's like he's there like looming like in the first Star Wars. Like we never see the Emperor in the first Star Wars.
That's just his presence, right?
We know about him. Like that's I think that's much stronger than if they like and again if they just made a scene with the Emperor, it would just be fan service. And there was not a single instance of what I felt like was fan service in this. Like if there were some aspects from the originals, obviously, like you get stormtroopers, you get the Empire TIE fighters, but they never felt like they were there for the reason of like, look, it's a starfighter, remember?
Yeah.
Remember TIE fighters?
Can I push back just a little bit against what you said? I agree with what you're saying, but I want to just, for me personally, a cameo is something like, it has almost a negative connotation because I feel it's like a little toy, a little distraction that you present to fans because, look, do you remember? Do you know? Have you been a fan for a gazillion years? Here's a little, character over there, a little ship over here. It's a cameo for me, and it's bothersome and disruptive when it doesn't serve the story. I argued in my conversations that you could bring Vader, you could bring Emperor, you could bring whoever the hell you want into this show, but not make it a canon. For example, when we see the whole aspect of the Empire, the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, all those guys rocking the white, basically their spy network, right?
Yeah.
They are kind of sort of connected to the Emperor. They are answerable to him.
Yep.
Maybe you could have his henchman Vader show up. control things. Like if you logically extend the character from before and weave them into the story, then it makes sense. Then it's not a cameo any longer.
Yeah. All right.
Let's talk about the look of this show. You know, we mentioned earlier, there's very gritty atmosphere. There's a lot of darks and shadows. You mentioned that the first planet where Andor Cassian goes looking for his sister is very reminiscent of the imagery from Blade Runner. Later on, when we see the prison, it reminds you a lot of THX movie, you know, George Lucas's first film. Obvious overtures there. They don't even hide it. You know, the filmmakers kind of like nod to George Lucas's work and they say, here, look at this. And it's the first Star Wars show which was actually shot on locations and was shot in England at Pine Studio. So there's no more volume technology, which I personally don't mind. I think it's cool, but when you start overusing your tools, all the shows begin to look the same. So we have live sets, for example, like the planet on the Ferrix, where it's Cassian's home and his mom and his friends live there. We have planets, the base on Aldhani, obviously where our rebels make their major attack on the Empire. We see Coruscant. Once again, guys, from an entirely different perspective that we saw it in the prequel trilogy, where it was lights, sparkling, and very Art Deco style, because it's the zenith of the Republic before it falls. And we see the prison on Narkina 5, where we see Andy Serkis' character, and like I mentioned before, the THX. So, in your opinion, as somebody who looks at a lot of film footage and you edit Star Wars, the original material, and you work on special effects, how does the photography of a movie inform the story?
Well, it does for sure, and it's part of what creates the atmosphere of the show or the movie. And I think like the cinematography here was very different from the original trilogy, and it fits the mood of the story here perfectly. Like you have more like harsh lighting, more shadows. And I think this whole entire show was shot beautifully. I really enjoyed the images, and goddamn.
No worries. I want to kind of follow up when we're talking about how does the photography inform the story? What does it do for the story? And I also kind of want to, if you want to continue on that thought, but also then you have basic principle photography and you shoot your locations, but then you spice it up and you add visual effects on it. Real props, CGI effects. And what's the role now of practical effects and the photography combined? What do they do in the film? What's their role?
Well, I think to add realism mostly, like, and especially for a show like this, which it's in a fantastic world, but at the same time it feels really grounded in reality, or at least like the reality of the show. I think using practical sets and practical effects really like enhances the feeling of what you're watching is actually happening. And actually, you can see the same thing in the original Star Wars.
Yeah, a lot of matte paintings, right, and backdrops.
Yeah, they didn't have CGI. They could use blue screens, but they were pretty obvious, so they used them sparingly. So yeah, it definitely adds to the realism. And I think it's also like it's not just visual realism, but you just kind of feel it because there are, in the real world, there are limitations to what you can do, and when you're using visual effects, it's so easy to like overstep those limitations and do stuff that you couldn't actually do in a real world. And that definitely has its place in movies. Like if you look at Avatar, for example, that's an amazing visual ride, and it would never be possible with practical effects without CG.
That's a good
point. But that's a different kind of thing. But if you want to stay grounded in reality, you also need this kind of groundedness in the limitations of shooting in the real world.
You're suspending your belief for a second. You're going on an adventure with these heroes. You want to live and experience it with them. You know, and George Lucas, and a monumental filmmaker and innovator in visual effects, you know, and film wizardry in general. You know, he also said that he's surprised, guys, all movies are fake. When you're watching on screen, it never happened. It's fantastic.
Sure.
You know, but I feel that on one side you have photography and then you have visual effects. The photography sets the tone of what your story is going to make the person feel like. So when you write the script, you write the text, you know, there's an evil empire, by the way, you know, and it kills planets and it subjugates, you know, innocent people. Or you have an evil empire, and it's, you know, and that's when you introduce photography to the image, now it becomes art. Now it starts evoking feelings. You have a lot of filmmakers who are using it very superficially, and you would see like a very dark and gritty picture, but then the filmmaker doesn't know how to extract the story out of it, so nothing happens. You stare for it. Like, for example, one of the movies I bring, it's a lesser known film. It's called Valhalla Rising. It's about these Vikings, and you know, it's about this guy. I keep forgetting the actor's name. He's actually in,
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen, right, from Rogue One, and he's just staring there. And there's beautiful backgrounds in front of him, and nothing is happening in that movie, but it's beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
Well, here in Andor, it's absolutely opposite, where Tony Gilroy and his photographers are asking questions constantly. What is the scene? What I want to relay? What are these actors experiencing? What are they feeling? And what I want the audience to feel. I'm not going to spell it out to you. I'm not going to just blurt it out via dialogue. By the way, I'm sad today. I'm just going to introduce these images and do all the heavy lifting, all the work. And then on top of that, you have brilliant visual effects that amplify it, that spice it up, that add an extra oomph to it. Because I'm a proponent of CGI. I enjoy CGI when it's used properly. And in the context of Andor show, they're used to take vast majority of what's real and then put what's that extra Star Wars spark into it. When you see Coruscant, it's obvious CGI. Like, you know, this place doesn't exist. Look at those towering buildings. But yet you're walking with that Cyril or Kirill, whatever his name is, that little Asian guy that he's walking around, he's like droopy, and like you feel that oppressive tone from it.
And I think that most of the Coruscant scenes were actually shot in a real place in London. It wasn't even a built set; it's like a real. But
were they like composites of different shots?
And, of course. And then in the far background, you get the composited like Coruscant city, but the actual architecture and stuff is real. So I think that's also what makes it feel like real world, because it is.
All right, guys, sorry for the quick interruption, but Peter, you were telling me here that actually a lot of what we see of Coruscant and Andor is actual real locations, which, again, it's mind-blowing, pretty fun.
Yeah, I saw someone posting, like, pictures. Like, I saw this place in Andor, and I couldn't believe it. I live here. So,
Another aspect, since we're talking about the look of the show, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit into it, and now talk about the visuals, the storytelling, and plus bring actors into discussion. In your opinion, what is implied under visual storytelling?
Well, telling stories by the images, not like by words. Show, don't tell is like one of the basic rules for filmmaking.
I hear a lot of fans who were telling me, like, interactions on Facebook that, hey, I didn't like the show, or I did like the show, but there were a lot of quiet moments in it. Some felt bored. Why is this? Do you feel like that Andor, obviously it's not a flawless show. I'm pretty sure you have a couple of things to pick about it. Did it have slow moments that are not informative, or just slow moments where the director wanted to say something, but it just wasn't for everyone? It wasn't obvious.
I think it's about 50-50. Like, there were some moments that for some people would definitely feel boring, but were informative. Like, what comes to mind immediately is the build up to the funeral in the last episode.
Yeah.
There's like very little said during all this, and it builds up the atmosphere, and it really serves the story. And there were more moments like this in the show, but I would say there were, like, for example, the whole heist storyline I felt was like one episode too long, maybe. Like the middle episode was really like I felt like nothing happened there, and sure, like visually it was still interesting uh because of the amazing locations they were using, and but I think you could fit that into like 2 episodes instead of 3, that arc.
Yeah, that's an interesting criticism. Yeah, I would agree with you. There were moments there where it didn't necessarily feel empty, or like suddenly you have this very talented group of filmmakers, showrunners, they're doing the show, and suddenly you have a moment which doesn't do anything. I didn't feel like they were particularly bad, but like you said, it's like, come on guys, let's step on the gas pedal a little bit here. Let's keep, because you can't have your quiet moment. Let's say when you want to build up anticipation, or say like Andor, he's sitting there like on planet Aldani before they start explaining to him the whole plan, how they're gonna attack do the whole heist. He's sitting there and he's contemplating, he's probably like musing on his past. That's okay to have that, but you always have to remember that you don't want to lose your audience. You constantly have to keep progressing the story.
Actually, like the heist was overall my least favorite storyline in the show. I still enjoyed it. Like the actual heist at the end was really good. And some of the setup, like it was taking place during this astronomical
event or whatever it was, like a phenomenon. Yeah, it was beautifully shot, man.
Like, so
it looks awesome.
So you were sort of expecting it and anticipating it.
Yeah.
So that was really good. But I felt overall it was a little bit. Well, I don't want to say boring. It wasn't boring, but not as intriguing as some of the other storylines, and maybe a little bit more predictable than the others as well. Like I kind of knew most of them were gonna die.
And then we know the ultimate end. Surprise! Cassian doesn't get out of it alive either. But and it's it's so interesting to talk to a Star Wars fan, or like yourself, where we can agree that we like this show and still find things about it that are not perfect. Like I hate when people start resorting to extremes. Everything Disney is bad. Only the original trilogy was good. Like, no, I find a lot of things I enjoy about prequel trilogy.
For sure.
I love stuff about the new stuff. It's always nuance. Even in your favorite show, like you said, the heist sequence of episodes was with 3-episode arc. That's your least favorite. It's my personal favorite. But then,
really?
Because we're different people. We enjoy different things about this show.
Cool.
And the next point I want to make is that, no matter how talented of a filmmaker you are, no matter what your credentials, you could have gazillion movies in your past, you can never quite tell what will make a particular show or a movie a success. It could be visuals, it could be action, it could be the emotional component. But I think one of the most successful things about Andor specifically, it's actors coupled with very strong writing. That's the winning formula here. We have, let me just quickly list a couple of actors here. Obviously, there's just tons out there. We had Diego Luna, who portrayed Andor. You said like he's your least personal favorite. I enjoyed his acting a lot in the show. There is Kyle Soller, who plays Cyril Karn, that security guy who got just booted basically. He's trying to find himself in the show. You have Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Luthien, obviously the badass rebel. You have Denise Gao, who plays the ISB agent Deidre. I thought she did a fantastic job showing us the evil teeth of the Empire, that cold, calculated practicality, which is going to stomp these cockroaches and are going to, progress with their rebellion. And then you have Anton Lesser, the ISB agent, playing Major Partagaz, where he also is known for portraying a character in Game of Thrones. He was my favorite actor in this show.
Okay.
It's beautiful. I would say probably my favorite actor in any Star Wars show. So what are your general impressions on the success parts of this show? Like, how did the actors do, and what did the actors do for them to make Andor show a success?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I'm not very good with names, so I won't remember the names of all the actors. But the guy playing Cyril,
Mhm.
I thought played him just beautifully. Like
Kyle
the
Soller, yeah.
character, the character is a bit annoying, but that's how he's written, and he's supposed to be like that.
Mhm.
It's kind of desperate obsession
Yeah.
kind of thing. It was really good, and I enjoyed his storyline with his mother and all
Oh, that
that.
was
Like that
amazing.
was
There's so many
yeah,
cool
yeah,
moments there.
yeah. And of course, like Stellan Skarsgård, he's an amazing actor, and he was really, really good in this.
Yeah.
Uh, like his, and of course, again, it's the acting and the writing. Like his speech in, I think, episode 10,
Mhm.
11, where when he meets with the informant, that was one of the
What are
best
you
things
fighting
on
for?
TV this year.
Dialogue, right?
I thought,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It was like I felt gravitas in it. Once again, there's stories that sometimes you watch that they feel very superficial. Like
Mm,
I enjoyed the Rings of Power show, but I felt like it tried to be Peter Jackson's level, like of the like the intellectual writing, the intellectual teachable moments there, the life lessons. It was a little bit on the nose there. Like there were
yeah.
episodes that I really enjoyed, but it really struggled to find its footing and be as impactful as the Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, because
Mm,
they came about at the very opportune moment, and the level of craftsmanship in Lord of the Rings is unrivaled. The
yeah.
level of writing in that
Yeah.
trilogy is unrivaled. So, it's, I think, in a way, almost unfair to say, well, because it's not as good as the trilogy, it's automatically bad. Like, it's okay not to
Yeah.
like it,
That's,
but you can't help but criticize it and say, the writing is not nearly as strong.
yeah, no, but it's that's the thing. Like, it doesn't have to be as good as the Lord of the Rings. Like, very few things are, but I really felt it was actively bad.
Mm, mm,
But that's just my opinion. Like, I know some people enjoyed it.
yeah.
Like, I enjoyed, like, for the first episode, I just enjoyed for the visuals.
Hmm.
Thought, okay, this might go somewhere like pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know, I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the actors.
Yeah.
And some of the actors I actually like in other roles. It
Hmm.
wasn't like they were bad actors, just
Hmm.
I guess maybe it's the director's fault,
Yeah.
or
Sometimes it
actually,
just doesn't work
yeah,
out, right? It just
no,
doesn't happen. I don't
yeah.
feel
it's
that.
it's kind of like, sorry, with the
Yeah.
prequels,
Hmm.
like Natalie Portman is an amazing actress.
Liam
She's
Neeson,
crap in
right?
the
Ewan
prequel.
McGregor, they're all great
Yeah,
actors.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Um,
even Hayden Christensen, like when I saw him in other roles,
he's
he was
good.
really good.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
yeah.
enjoyed him as well. I enjoyed
Yeah.
him in prequel trilogy, actually.
Hmm.
Recognizing the fact that he wasn't allowed to fully spread his wings, and perhaps
Ah,
he was
that's true.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was less experienced than Natalie Portman of an actor. He was, I think, wasn't as young when he started acting, but
Hmm.
I enjoyed him. But yeah, it's just sometimes I don't feel that anyone wants to consciously sabotage their own work and just release it out there. I'm pretty sure they were trying to do the best with the Rings of
Hmm.
Power, just didn't come out as well. But
Yeah, I guess.
back to the Andor and Star Wars and the whole future of Disney. The Disney era has been rocky, to say the least.
Hmm.
We have Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Kenobi. You and I, we shared our general thoughts on those. Some were better than the others, but none quite stacked up to Andor. I think both you and I would agree that Andor is the best one. Um, what do you think the executives at Lucasfilm, at Disney, can learn from Andor moving forward with future shows?
Hmm. Yeah. What I guess what we already discussed, like try and give us something new, something different. Like we
Mm,
do, but then, like, that's for us. But when you look at the viewing numbers, it's
mhm.
actually the worst performing of all the Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's its fault. I think it's the fault of the previous shows for, like, turning people off from new Star Wars
That
shows.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
I have a different theory there.
really.
Yeah, I think it's this kind of storytelling is less not inviting, but it's less like you need more patience to get into it. It's not entry level Star Wars. And I once again, I totally understand. Like, I would never frown upon somebody who say, "Well, you're just not as smart as we are watching Andor." Ha ha ha! You act all intellectual. That's just not what people are looking for. Let's say somebody comes from a hard day's work. They want to see some thrilling, exhilarating roller coaster Indiana Jones Temple of Doom kind of ride. They don't want this cerebral, intellectual people talking. It's like, I'll watch it later. I don't want to see it. So it's probably that. But once again, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I think you're probably right, but it's like probably a combination of the two.
Yeah. Because look, Mandalorian, I would say it's quite different. It's unlike other Star Wars show. It's far more Western than any other Star Wars offering.
True,
Book of Boba Fett is kind of different, but something in those shows was lacking. What was lacking in those previous different shows that Andor finally nailed, in your opinion?
Well, again, like really like deep, interesting characters. Where like I think Mandalorian is like the second best of the Star Wars shows, and
I would agree.
I think mostly it's because like we actually do care for the character. Although like the way it's achieved is by like Baby Yoda being super cute.
You're conned into it.
That just sort of automatically makes you care for him. So it's a bit of a cheat, whereas here they actually wrote interesting characters with like real human flaws and desires, and you actually had something to root for. So yeah, I think that's what like real good character work, which actually is what I think is also the big difference between the Rings of Power show and the House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
like in the Rings of Power, the characters are like super surface level.
Yeah,
there's no real human.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight, for evil guys. The Galadriel, she's like paper thin character.
And or it's like revenge. Like But in House of the Dragon, it's like the characters are super complex and interesting. So I think it's kind of the same thing here, like where you actually care about the characters. And that's what I think why Andor Cassian is like my least favorite, because actually you don't get much of that from him. He's kind of like the observer in the show. He's and that's an important role, I guess, like that. But he's I guess like he definitely has an arc. So like he's not a bad character by any means,
right?
But he's, I think, the least interesting of the characters in the show.
You see, I have a different take on it. I very much enjoy how you described him. He's an observer. He almost stands outside from the events that need to happen here. Mon Mothma on one side, Lucy on the other side. They're putting this whole machine into full force. Like, we're gonna actively oppose the Empire. And he's like, no, I'm just going to fight for my people. I'm going to save my mom. I'm going to get away out of this place. He even wants to leave Ferrex with his childhood friend, with the girl. So it's going to be, we're at a point A. It's the whole show is going to be Andor 2.0, moving into that point B of the story, the person that he would become. Because everything that his life experiences have taught him is to be selfish, to look after himself, don't trust anyone, and I am just a single person. I'm not a leader. I don't want to bother with the Empire. I'm just going to be by my own. And the way that Diego Luna, the way that the lines are written for him, not that he's an Oscar-winning performer, but he fits that style. There's a lot of, he's quiet and he doesn't emote a lot, but at the same time, you feel like this silent rage piling up, bit by bit, and sooner or later it's going to explode. Like indeed it does in Rogue One.
I guess you're probably right. Yeah.
Peter, as a film editor, somebody who edits Star Wars, the original trilogy, day by day, as a person who professionally works in the visual effects industry, and now you're a fan, you're sitting behind the screen and you're in front of a screen and you're watching your favorite show or movie. do you analyze every frame, like every detailed? Do you like look at the little mistakes and things that you just can't forgive that bother you?
I guess like when the story is really good, I don't. Like for like in Andor, I haven't noticed a single bad visual effect, and I'm sure there were some,
Yeah.
like, but you're watching when I really get into the story, I don't care. Like unless it's like super awful, it's like if it works, it's great. But then when I'm bored, like with the Rings of Power, like some of the visuals in that were amazing, but
Yeah.
then there were some that were really subpar, and also like the costumes and stuff. And if the story was great, I probably wouldn't have noticed at all, But
Okay. So when you're bored,
so
you will start and you start making
yeah,
poke holes
yeah,
in
yeah,
the shows
yeah,
that you
yeah,
disliked. Okay, that
yeah.
kind
And
of makes sense.
yeah, and it's a bit of a thing, like with like so, for example, when I'm watching like political debates, usually they have like uniform backgrounds, and I find myself thinking like, how would I key out that background instead of listening to what they're
When it's really boring. Political debates, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of them they're vastly boring affair. You're watching, it's like, oh man, can you say something that we actually can respond to as citizens, like something near and dear to us? So you look at a lot of analog footage, right, from the visual effects that were done for the Star Wars. You literally, guys, when you go to his channel, you look at his streams, you see every frame is being worked on, like a Photoshop or different digital tools that you use. What are some of the fun things that you notice that you think general public doesn't see?
like hard to get like super specific in an answer like this, but uh I do see the seams,
Mm,
uh and I think actually like probably that's part of why they did the special edition. Like a modern audience
yeah.
can see the seams way more than the audiences back then.
Hmm.
But for me, that's part of what I enjoy about it. Like I can see the old techniques and the what was groundbreaking back then. And
Hmm.
actually, like I don't think in Star Wars there are any like super bad cringe effects shots. Like I watched Star Trek 5, I think it is, where
Hmm.
they go back in time to Earth in our times.
And Save the Whales or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Save the
remember that
Whales.
one. Yeah, yeah.
And there were some real shockers in that one,
Mm.
like in terms of, and then there were some really good visual effects because of course like they had a decent budget, and it's like uh in the 80s. But then there were some where you could like see a met line like this thick around the ship or something like this, and there's nothing like this in Star Wars. So I
Hmm.
think they did an amazing job for the time, and like seeing some of the little flaws just sort of gives it more interest and character.
Hmm. And I love how when you look at the Light and Magic documentary on
Mm.
Disney Plus, how a lot of the effects that they came up with, George was there to push them off the
Mm.
cliff
Yeah,
and make that leap of faith. And like, George, we don't know how to do this. The tools for this don't exist. He's like, just think about it. I was just
yeah,
watching the episode yesterday. It's like, but George, I'm telling you, it's not possible with the budget and the time limits that you have. Just think about it. It was,
yeah.
and I thought of this effect in 15 minutes, and it wasn't even about changing my tool set. It's about just thinking about an effect in a
Mm.
completely different way. And I think, like, I looked at some of your streams, and obviously I looked at a lot of documentaries how the Star Wars were made, way from before, from earlier DVD releases. And you look at that stuff, and it seemed like, especially with the original trilogy, every single shot, every single frame, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't like half baked and just throw it out there. They put their hearts and souls into it. That's why to this day, you look at the original attack on the Death Star, it holds, up. It stands the test of time.
Yeah.
Um, let's switch. Oh, last question I had for you as well as an editor. I was just curious. Once again, all coming back to your project and which I'm personally very grateful for, working for the specialized editions, despecialized editions. And what are the modern tools, the digital tools that are using? How do they help you improve the older footage?
Uh, well, one point of view is I'm actually not trying to im like that.
Mm,
That's what I was talking about with the little flaws.
right.
I'm actually trying to put them back where they were removed for the special edition, but
Ah.
I still do it in a digital sort of collage way where
Mhm,
I use the higher quality new footage and just put the flaws back in.
mhm,
Uh, and uh, and of course, because my sources, like I want my end goal is to have like a really nice modern restoration, which
mhm.
requires a lot of cleanup, but also it's I still want it to look like film, so there should be some film grain, which for the 4K Blu-ray they scrubbed all the film grain. So
Ah,
I want to put some back. But then on the other hand, you have the fan restorations, which are scanned from 35 millimeter
mhm,
projection prints, which are like 4 generations of copies removed from the original negative.
mhm,
So there's a lot of grain and dirt and all that. So I'm using the modern denoising and sharpening and all
mhm.
that uh, to sort of put them visually on par with the official Blu-rays. Um, and yeah, that's quite achievable. Like if you compare it one to one, there will always be more detail
Mhm.
in the official Blu-ray because it's scanned from the original negative.
Right.
But you can make it so it's when you switch from one source to the other, it's not jarring. You don't notice. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the goal I have there. And now, of course, some people are actually experimenting with like new AI technologies.
Right.
So I might be able to get some sources from those people. So
Mhm.
actually, like with AI upscaling, you could probably get the detail level of the original negative. The question is like because the AI sort of invents the detail,
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say that
it's like
interrupts the original integrity of the
yeah,
photograph of the
yeah,
analog technology that
yeah,
the image
yeah,
was conceived, and the argument is, well, now it's digital film.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's sort of debatable, really. Like how far can you go with this kind of thing
Yeah,
before it's something completely new and not
yeah. I follow you.
original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm interested how you said you want to put those scenes back into it so the fans could see how it's made. So in a way, I was not kind of representing your work in the best light. You're not improving on it. You're restoring it. You're
Yes. Yes.
despecializing.
Exactly. Yes.
Peter, as always, super fun to talk to you. I have one last questions
Hmm.
for us to talk about, and then if you don't mind, I have four super short, like yes or
All
no,
right.
super quick, fun, stupid questions to throw at you.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yep.
So the last question that I have, I'm personally a video gamer. I've been playing Star Wars games since PlayStation 1 era. There was like a fighting game called Terras Kasai,
Oh.
1v1, one person to one person. There was a one based on the original Phantom Menace video game that came out. Of course, the Knights of the Old Republic. We have the latest Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn Entertainment. That is going to be followed up next year with the next sequel. Have you gamed at all? Like, what do you feel the future of Star Wars lies with all the video games and shows and comic books? Like, where is the future of the franchise?
That's an interesting question in that framing. Like the video games, I'm not a big gamer
Right.
myself, right? So I have played some of the video games on like the PlayStation 1 era was
Mm-hmm.
probably the last time I like actually really played some. Like
Mm-hmm.
uh I did play some Battlefront
Ah, nice.
and stuff, but
Yeah, the
only
shooting
a
game.
little bit, like at a friend's house or something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh but the last Star Wars game I played, like properly for like hours, I think was like the original Phantom Menace PlayStation 1 game.
I remember that
And
game.
then of course the uh Star Wars Racer.
Hmm. That was popular back in the day.
Yeah,
Nintendo
yeah, yeah,
64,
yeah.
PlayStation, yeah. But those
Mhm.
games like didn't have as much story to offer as other ones, which
Yeah,
looks like you
I
haven't
know.
played. But
Oh,
like,
and actually,
yeah.
recently, I played, because I got a VR headset,
Hmm.
and
The
there's like this,
the Darth Vader one, right?
yeah, Vader Immortal, I
Yeah, yeah,
think it's
yeah.
called.
I played a bit of
And
that too. Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of like it's more like a VR movie rather than
Hmm.
actual game. Like you do get to do some like gameplay, but mostly it's a linear story pretty much.
Hmm.
But I really enjoyed that because like in the VR, you're like actually seeing Darth Vader like in front of you. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like my latest Star Wars gaming experience. But what I wanted to say before is that like actually the video games were a big part of what like kept Star Wars alive
Yeah.
after the original trilogy ended.
Yeah.
And of course then it was also the extended universe books, but
Hmm.
the games were, I think, before that, like the Dark Forces and
Hmm.
all that. I
And also, you
remember.
also had the tabletop game from West End Games, right? Where you
Hmm,
like Dungeons and Dragons. You would sit down, pop the boxes, get the guidebooks, and you would like create your
right.
characters and just go table adventure. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I like with all these different multimedia branching out, I feel that the future Star Wars is no longer on a theatrical screen. Like it's
Hmm,
obviously it's going to be great and amazing to see the next big Star Wars trilogy on the big screen, but it's so much potential. Like for example, I'm so hyped, I'm so interested in this new Jedi Fallen Order, which is called Jedi Survivor,
hmm.
because you have the potential to experience. I think it's the best story they wrote. It's better than any sequel trilogy film. It was
Uh-huh.
so interesting and so engaging.
Okay.
And with the video game, now that it has the visual of almost indistinguishable from a movie, you have the actor's face being scanned in, real life performances. You have the potential to tell a story that the viewer no longer just appreciates from a distance, but you take a part in it. You
Yeah.
participate, you change the
Yeah.
event sometimes to a different outcome sometimes. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go with games. Peter, last four questions. Please, guys, don't take them seriously. They're here just for fun. We'll try to answer them quickly and don't take them too seriously. Number one, if Luke lived to 800 years, would he look as good as Yoda?
No,
No?
no, I don't think so. Like I think Yoda looked pretty good for 800 years old or nine, really.
As a kid, I always, for some reason, thought he wasn't an alien. He was a human being who
Right.
aged to 800
Ah,
years and he morphed into that little thing. I'm like, look, what's going to happen there? He's a handsome young man. What's going to happen?
right.
So your answer is
Okay,
no.
then the question makes sense.
Next question, number two.
Oh,
If you owned a cantina on Tatooine, would you serve droids?
um, hmm. Sure. Like if I was me
Yeah.
as I am now, I would definitely serve droids. Droids are some of the most fun characters in all of Star Wars.
See,
Actually, we never mentioned the droid in Andor, which I thought
right, right, right. It's
was
so
really
cute.
good. Like
Yeah.
also the character, but also the design.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Grandpa droid. He was so droopy and
Yeah,
sad all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So okay, you and I would both appreciate droids. I guess we think they're conscious, they're sentient beings.
yeah,
We would serve them. I would too.
yeah.
Um, we saw big sandworms in Dune.
Hmm.
Are there any huts on Arrakis?
Hmm. Hmm. Nah, I don't think you could like merge those two universes. They're
No.
way too different.
See, I disagree with you there. I think it's quite
Really?
possible. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because Dune is like so freaking far. Even though real Earth, real historical events connect, it's like it's in our universe. I
Hmm.
don't know. The planet is just so vastly different, and I could see just a bunch of gangsters coming. spice. We can sell this thing and like profit from it. That's what Hutts excel at.
So actually, maybe because it's like Dune takes place like far into the future, and Star Wars is a long time ago, so it could be Tatooine.
Yeah. That's what I was mainly thinking of spice. That's what I posed the
Right,
question.
yeah,
like,
'cause-
Hutts gangsters kind of connects.
Yeah. It's actually fun that George Lucas used spice. It's kind of a wink reference.
Yeah,
I think
Frank Herbert is like, can
Yeah.
you buy us lunch at least for the ideas you used
Yeah.
from the book? That's one of his famous quotes. Luke sees Force ghosts, and obviously Leia is strong in the Force, as we see in Episode 6, right? It's being conveyed to us, but she doesn't comment on Yoda, Kenobi, or Anakin's Force ghosts because A, she's polite, B, she doesn't like green little old men, and C, she has daddy issues.
Okay, if those are my choices, it's definitely C. I mean, if you know, in her place, who wouldn't have daddy issues?
Yeah, right. And until the last moment, she doesn't know. Until the return of the Jedi, right? That's when
yeah. And then also who she thought was her dad got blown up by her real dad. So
yeah. He's kind of even though it was Tarkin's order.
Well,
he
yeah,
was
of course,
responsible for destroying all
it's
the.
a bit of a simplification, but
kind of scummy move. It's gonna ruin your father and daughter relationship.
Yeah, but I'm kind of spoiling the fun here. But to get like more serious about it, I don't think she sees the ghosts because I think you have to have like a personal relationship with the person to see it.
That makes sense. Yeah,
see
kind of
the
like
ghost.
a Hamlet, right? You need to.
Yeah.
I follow you. There's actually a couple of expanded universe books. I want to say it's called Tatooine Ghost, where Vader does show to her in his spectral form. And It's a very, very interesting scene. Very little nice exchange there. Well, Peter, it's been really, really awesome to catch up with you. I know you're super busy. Thanks for making time. And I hope we get to do this again. I really loved hearing your thoughts as somebody who is involved with filmmaking professionally, to hear your thoughts on Andor. And it's nice to connect with somebody and say, like, look, it wasn't perfect, rough around the edges maybe, but we had fun. We enjoyed another Star Wars outing, and we're hopeful for the future. If you have any last thoughts, we'll basically wrap it up here.
Again, like our main topic was Andor, and I would definitely recommend everyone who hasn't seen Andor, like, go watch it.
Yeah,
because I was amazed by how good it was compared to all the other Star Wars shows, but even as its own thing. Like that's what one of the things I judge, like when I look at a franchise show, not necessarily just Star Wars. And I think, like, if this wasn't Star Wars, if the characters were called something different, if the ships looked different, if it was the Evil Kingdom instead of Evil Empire, like, would this still be a good show? And Andor would.
Yeah,
sure.
I totally agree with you. And the point I want to make is, don't take my word for it. Don't take Peter's word for it. Go watch it for yourself. Don't listen to critics or even other fans, because there might be things in there that if you leave your preconceived notions outside and you go and watch it with a clear mind, there'll be things about it that you will enjoy. Perhaps not everything, but there'll be things that you like. I hope we get to continue our discussion. Guys, please go and check Petr Harmy's awesome work on the Star Wars Despecialized. I'll drop all the links in the video comments in the video section below, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for checking us out. Take care.